Hey everyone, this is Jen Hadley. I am here with Fierce Mom Personal Coaching, and I have a very special guest today. I know he just looks like a head floating in the darkness. There's hands too. Richard Bucher and I have been friends for quite some time now. He is an executive coach, a teacher, an author, an all-around cool guy, and one of my coaches as well. And I'm super, super happy to have you here today. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Jen. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to bring you on because we are really in a weird space right now. Everyone was excited for 2021 to come and that we'd all get back to normal, and everyone's talking about new normal, and I'm not really sure what that means. I don't think anybody really knows what that means.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you because I know that a lot of people are still losing jobs. Even now, there's more announcements of more and more jobs being lost. And you work with people in job transition. You help teams figure out, how to work together a little more cohesively. So I wanted you to come on so you can give us some insight on where that starts. We talk about, I know you have a book that you've written, Your Path to Purpose, and I have it right here. And I'm so excited about it. And I know it's still brand new looking because I need to work through it with you. So we're going to get to that. But where does it start? Talk to us about what you do, because I'm sure I beat it up pretty badly. So let's start there.
No. Well, I want to touch on the anticipation I think all of us had coming into 2021. And lots of people saying, good riddance or harsher language than that to 2020. And it's almost like one of us walked down the hallway and opened up the guest room and then snuck into the master bedroom to say, honey, he's still here. Like that house guest that just won't leave. And they're not doing their laundry and they're not cleaning up the kitchen. In fact, they're leaving a pretty nasty infection behind for anybody to get. And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
So it's, within the context of that can be disheartening. And you and I were just talking before we went live about, what it's like to be living in this insulated space where your commute is up or down stairs or down a hall, which is kind of nice in one way, but it's, socially not interactive in any way. And then you talk about the number of people that are being impacted by job loss. And today in particular, there's another 30% of this new combined Husky Synovus company that are losing their jobs. And my heart breaks for them. It's a horrible place to be, and what a disheartening way to start a new year. So my heart goes out to them for sure. And a lot of those people, and a lot of the people that will be watching this are wondering, okay, so where do I start? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
When the options that I would have had 5 years ago don't appear to be there anymore. And I can't imagine what else I could do. And frankly, I went to school and paid a lot of money for the education that I've got, or I've been in this field for a really long time. And, my income's gotten to a certain level. I don't know how I'm ever going to replace that. This is pretty frightening stuff.
Yeah.
Where do I go? What do I do? Well, commonly what happens is the intuition that can really guide us through this journey at the outset is almost like a child. It doesn't have the street smarts to navigate a transition of this scope necessarily very well. In normal times, we'd get our resume prettied up and we'd apply to a few jobs, and within a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months, we'd be back at work and maybe a little richer for it because we got a severance package when we left the last job. But that's not the case anymore. We're going to need every nickel of that severance to help us through this transition. And for many of the people that are out there right now, that severance is ancient history. It's a forgotten number, and even EI's gone. So fundamentally, in order to get a direction on this, to put a rudder on this person that we've become, we need to come to terms with our purpose. Now, when we started this conversation, you were kind of making fun of this bouncing head with hands in this dark space. So welcome to my mushroom farm.
Well, you bring the light. You're that's what it is. You're the light in all of the darkness. So
So that's what a full moon looks like.
we're all looking to you for the light out of this dark situation.
Yes. So it is, metaphorically speaking, it's appropriate because that's what it can feel like. If there's any light, and it's more than coincidental, that for anybody that's looking at this screen, if you're looking at one side, it's black, and you look on the other side and it's not. If you look at one side of the screen, there's very little information that you can draw other than what your eyes are seeing. And you see this backwards printed word on my shoulder, and you might see a couple of images faintly in the background. But if you look at where Jen's sitting, you see a lot of other things. You see, for example, over her right shoulder, you see a vision board.
Yeah.
If you look over her left shoulder, you see some reading material. And then if you look at the center of the frame, you see a person who's got a lot of wisdom and information. Well, this whole journey to clarity starts with taking advantage of those things that are in your midst. Because if my only option was to sit in this dark space and try and figure it out on my own, to try and think my way through this by myself, I'm not saying people aren't smart enough to do that. This isn't about intelligence, but it's an awful lot more difficult, I think, to try and navigate this whole journey by yourself. So first and foremost, as I said, we need to get clear on our purpose. Well, what exactly is that? Your purpose is identified or pointed to by the things that come naturally to you. So when you're engaged in a variety of different tasks and you lose track of time, you're probably engaged with something that relates to your purpose. You're losing track of time because you really enjoy doing it. Now, there may be someone out there that says, well, I really enjoy playing video games. Okay. Shut the damn.
But there's a lot of people out there that are doing really well playing video games. My kids watch YouTube every day.
So if that's your future, then I'm costing you money by listening to this. So go back and play video games. And thanks for jumping in. But if you happen to know anybody that's not in that circumstance, then turn the damn box off. And let's really get into this conversation. Start paying attention to the things that are in our own life, in our own experience, that can point us in this direction of what is our North Star, our purpose. So as I said, the things that come naturally to us, the things that we've always been good at, the subjects, for example, if we think back to high school and if we went to university, that we found a lot easier than some other subjects. It also involves other people in our life. So you look at the people that know you well, that care about you, that have maybe known you for your whole life. And in some cases, this might be your parents, if they're still alive. By the way, you can still speak to them when they're not. If they're not with you anymore, then, I talk to my mom all the time. The good news in that it's not good news, but she's been gone now for, my goodness, it's almost a decade. And I was about to say she doesn't talk back, but you know what she does still. And it's usually very poignant, not a like talk back, but it causes me a deeper reflection. But I would engage those people that have known me for a really long time, because they can be helpful to say, hey, Jen, here's something that I've observed about you, and I'm not sure you're aware of it. And I know you're doing some career planning. You're trying to figure out what next looks like. Well, here's some things about you that I think you might find really helpful. I don't know if you've noticed this.
I absolutely have. And there have actually been people who maybe I've wanted to work with who have said, this is not your path, because you're this person. You're more of they've found things in me that have led me towards a different path, because I didn't just need a paycheck. I needed a purposeful career. Right.
Yeah. And it can also be, you can also get a sense of whether you're on the right path or not, is when you start to think about these activities, and then ultimately perhaps occupations, where is your anticipation meter? So if it's sort of down on this end, thinking, how many more Fridays till death? Probably not a great direction, but as you notice your enthusiasm starting to pick up, that can be indicative of the fact that you may be onto something here. Yeah. But fundamentally, so we were talking again before we came on, and I was sharing an an email that I'd received by someone who's reading my book. And, it kind of burned through chapter 1 and chapter 2, feeling really good, feeling really positive, answering some questions, producing some really good reflection. This is awesome. And then he hit chapter 3, and it was like, he kind of got bogged down in the mud. And as he said in his email, because he's an engineer by training, he said, because I won't move on to the next question until I have the right answer to this question. And it's interesting because really for him, I don't know what the question was, and we'll talk about it at our virtual coffee coming up. But it'd be interesting because I found this with a couple of other people. The question itself, as it turned out, wasn't even relevant.
Why?
In the grand scheme of things, it just didn't matter to them. The answer to it, no matter what it was, and we tested it by playing with a few responses, it fundamentally didn't matter. It was the wrong question in the first place. So then we started playing with, through dialogue, well, what do you think a better question would be? Well, if you'd asked me this, that would have really made sense. Okay, I just did. Tell me what you think. So my point being, and this is something that I mentioned in the book, I put my email address in there, and I invite anybody who is interested enough to buy the book, and if that's something you do, then thank you for that. And I'm prepared to make good on thank you being more than just words. There's an email address there, and there's an hour of my time waiting for you that won't cost you a nickel if you'd like to use it. And it doesn't have to be all at one time. We can carve it up into 15-minute chunks if you like, because what I want more than anything else is for you to go through that journey and identify at the end of it thinking, okay, now I got my North Star, now where I'm going. I want you to find the answers to your questions, and I want you to find the questions to your answers. I say in the book that everyone has a purpose. Mine is to help you find yours. So this is kind of how this is one of the ways I prove it. And for this sidebar quickly, if you're reading the book and you think, well, I don't really feel like I need to have a conversation with Richard, I've read the book, I'm good, then don't just throw it away, give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
In other words, give that hour to somebody else. Have them reach out to me and say, well, hey, my friend got this book, but they didn't need you to talk to you, but I did. So they gave me the hour.
What a
Awesome.
gift. That's a great gift.
Why not?
Yeah.
And again, doesn't cost anybody anything.
Yeah. Well, so how does the book differ from, other sort of, it's in the self-help sort of motivational, how does it differ? Why, how does your process work as we go through the book? Because I have yet to start it and I'm really excited. So what am I going to expect going through the book? I know that there are questions along the way that you recommend not skipping over until I have time later. Because if you're reading and get engaged and get involved. But when I come out of it, what am I going to know? How does the process go? And then what's the end result?
So to your first question about how it's different, and I do not seek to disparage anyone in anything they've written or any programs out there. There's dozens of different ways to come at this question. I've come at it from a place born out of thousands of conversations with people who have come to my door when they're in the midst of a transition they hadn't planned on. And their most pressing question being, I just flat out have no flipping idea what to do next. Yeah. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I'll enjoy. I for sure know I don't want to do that, or now in 2021, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that anymore. So that's where they're showing up. And so the journey really chronicles those conversations as they flow. And what I've introduced is a framework for people to flow with that inquiry, flow with that reflection. And it's in the context of a conversation. So I shared with you this email that I've received this morning from that client of mine. And he said, as he read the first two chapters, he said it was like us having the conversation. He said, I could hear you in my head. There's a gal that's a member of one of my purpose pods. So this is folks that came through the day on purpose, and now they're meeting on a regular basis to work as a cohort, collaborating and working together as they all journey through the process of figuring out their purpose. And so she shared with me when she read the second edition, the one you have, Your Path to Purpose, that she said, I felt like you were walking beside me as I walked around Glenmore Reservoir. And I think, perfect. That's I couldn't hope for better. I want people to feel, and what I've endeavored to do is to create a content that feels like you have a co-conspirator working with you, that you have somebody walking with you, less so from the perspective of this guru expert. That's not my role. And more one who's taken a wealth of information from the conversations that I've had, all the questions that I've been asked and that I've asked myself, and put it in a package that allows people to digest it in a step-by-step format, to cause and to nurture deeper reflection, to come up with deeper and more substantive answers. So it's sort of moving all of this from this part of your head down to here, down into your heart, where the real answers are all found.
A lot of the times, even just the idea of purpose, like it seems like such a huge word. What's my purpose? What am I doing here? Why am I alive? What do I bring to the world, to the community?
Yeah.
And I think that your book does probably, it sounds like it does a really good job of breaking it down into smaller steps.
Yeah. And fundamentally, as you're laying in bed in the morning and you're in those wakeful moments. So especially like today in Calgary, where it's, minus 435, you're probably enjoying the warmth.
Yeah. And the non-commute. Yes.
Yes. And you see the prognosis of not having to start your car, just slide on the stairs on your bum.
There you
go. As your feet are coming out from the covers in the morning, what direction are they going to head? What's the very first thing you're going to do? What's the most important thing you need to get done today? What's the project that you're working on that you need to make sure you advance to this point by Friday of this week? What will have you looking back on this year saying, yeah.
High five to everyone. That's really great. And I know that I seem to, and in my own experience, every time I've taken a job that I didn't connect with or I didn't align with, I always felt that, or anytime, just because I needed the paycheck, the single mom life, you got to just provide for your kids and that's it.
Absolutely.
And we just do it because we feel we have to, right?
Yeah.
I actually just wrote a blog post that I'm going to post this week about obligation and how it's a 4-letter word and it's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes our control and our power away from us in being who we really are. So every time I've noticed, if I was to take any kind of role in something that doesn't make sense to me or that doesn't fit with me, it never lasts. And then I always end up back at square one. I always end up back to where I thought wouldn't work or that I didn't think could be an actual viable, thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important also, is that intuition and noticing that the things that, like you said, the things that you were good in school at and the things that you spend hours on and don't realize the time is gone. That's the real discovery, right?
And we don't ever think about it because we're really enthralled with what it is we're doing.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of tips that might help your viewers. Here's a really pragmatic one. So we're January 26th, 2021. 1/26/21. Cool. And there may be some folks there that when they look at what they're planning out for the year, what they're setting up as really important for the year, they have a sort of an esoteric sense, but they really haven't gotten to the point of saying, yeah, here's a list of my goals for this year, and which is frightening to do that, because if of course you come up with a list, then you're creating this expectation that you're actually going to do something about that.
Right.
So where's the how do I actually make sure I do that? I happen to know someone who's come up with this amazing workbook. It's to guide people step by step through that process, and is hosting a webinar each month.
Every month, yeah.
Every month to guide people through that process. So some of the questions that you're going to work through in your path to purpose are going to conjure up some higher level questions. You may even start thinking about tactically about what do you do next. So these two things actually dovetail really nicely together. It's really hand in glove.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't want to go outside today without a glove on.
No, I did, and I got really cold.
Yeah. So sometimes we talk about this, we'll find in our language that we're talking about, I need to do fill in the blank. So I'm inviting everyone as they're doing that, if they catch themselves saying, I need to, change it to, I want to. When I say I need to, it disempowers me. It's like, I really don't have any control over this. I can't control the outcome. I've just been laid off and the energy industry's in a tailspin and I need to find a job, but how do I do that? Well, that doesn't sound very hopeful or very empowering. And I totally appreciate why people could feel that way. But it changes your energy and your power and its source when you change it to I want to. The other thing to listen for is all of us are going to hear a lot of buts in our day-to-day language. But this, but that. Yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but. Work really hard and be focused, conscious every day on changing every but to and. So and builds, but tears down. Because sometimes some of the things you're going to go through, for example, when you're going to come up to answers in your path to purpose, and very quickly you'll have this parent tape playing in your head saying, well, come on, honey, that's just not realistic. Who's going to pay you to do that? You don't have any experience. Why would you come on? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So you're thinking, yeah, but I can't do that because I don't have a fill in a list of all these qualifications. This morning, I looked, data, digital and data is massive. Data is king all of a sudden. So data analytics is going to be a career area that's just going like, boom, like this. Fantastic, simple, right? Go to U of A, they have a certificate program. 4 courses, I can have a certificate in data analytics. Problem solved. Except for the prerequisites that I require to get into the program. So then you look at those and you think, but I'm not qualified. Yeah, but I'm not qualified. I can't do that. Well, yeah, but look, I have to have math, blah, 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 and physics, blah, 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 and calculus, blah, blah, blah. So all kinds of reasons why this stuff won't work. And that's the stuff we need to stop. That doesn't help create, it doesn't clarify, it doesn't answer questions. And we're getting ahead of ourselves. We really need to get to a place where first and foremost, I pull to my hand to my vision and I look in the palm and I find the compass that, for example, that you'll see at the bottom of my website or on the bottom of my emails.
Or on the cover of your book.
Yes.
There it is.
and the needle is pointing north. It always does. So that's what it's like to have your purpose. And then the yeah buts don't really have a lot of energy when you know you're the direction you need. I'm not saying this is easy, folks. I'm not. And it isn't.
It's not. And a lot of time it's because of the beliefs that we have as we grow up, right? It's the things that we've learned and the fear of what are people going to think or what are they going to say? Like that's been, I find that for a lot of people that I serve are in that space where what am I going to tell my mom or what is my husband going to say or, and how that fear of being sort of rejected is really crippling. So until you know for sure and until you really feel the difference, like it's an actual energy shift once you realize what it is
for sure
that you're meant to do. And then once you get there, then it's just steps, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just, okay, that's my goal. That's my purpose. And what I do with my planner that I wrote is the first chunk of it is narrowing that part down. It's what do I want and why do I want it? And how do I, how do I get there is the easy part, right? It's just time blocking and setting goals and action plan. But really the hard part is figuring out exactly what it is and getting over the fear of what if, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. We were both listening to Tony Robbins recently, and it's interesting what he does with the detail stuff you just rattled off, because you're right. Once you figure out the what, once you figure out the why and then the what, the rest of the stuff is easy. Yeah. You find someone who has the answers or somewhere where you can get those answers and it's there for you. It's usually at the end of www dot something, or it's a phone call or a text message or an email. That part's not hard. That doesn't mean that you're not going to discover that I got to go do a Math 30 course at some point. But, and say, well, that's too hard. I don't think I can do that. Well, how much longer do you think you can stay where you are?
Yeah. Well, that's just, where are we now versus where were we last year?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we don't expect these kinds of obstacles to get in our way,
No.
but a lot of people have found their true purpose through COVID shutdowns because they've been forced to rethink. And unless we give ourselves the opportunity to reevaluate where we are, and I think somebody, one of Tony's people said that you should reevaluate every few months, every 6 months or so, and say, where am I now? How am I happy where I am? And do the evaluation once in a while, and like more often than when the world ends, because that will help you sort of get there, because your yeah buts will sort of get quieter as you realize, the more self-exploration you do. So I think that's great. And a lot of people have shifted during COVID because they've either had to, or there's just, most of them have had to, right? You get laid off, and then now what? Now I have to figure out what else I'm going to do. The government has offered a new grant for those who have started new businesses since last March, because I think that he said it's the most Albertan thing to do, is to just build your own business or do something else, or get into a new industry. And I think that we've been pretty resilient and pretty hopeful in that sense of looking forward and building towards it. And I think that really not settling anymore is where we need to stay, because then we just get stuck in these jobs that we don't want to do, that just pay the bills. Yeah. But they don't pay the heart bills, right?
That's right. And having a job that pays bills is nothing to sneeze at, as you and I both know.
Absolutely.
The difference, I think, is when you walk into that circumstance with the clarity that's sitting behind your right shoulder, and the clarity you had to be able to compose something like that, a vision board that provides you many, if not all, of the answers that I talk about and the questions I promote in your path to purpose. That's pretty cool, because you're not coming at it from a blank slate. You're not sitting in this dark space with no light, literally or figuratively, trying to think really hard to figure out, okay, now what? Yeah. And trying to answer questions like that where you feel I'm profoundly ill-equipped to deal with that. Well, again, once you know where's that fire that's somewhere in there that what has been there, that you felt the warmth of it from time to time, and you now let it reflect all the way through you and come out your eyes into, for example, that vision board behind you. That's pretty powerful. Why am I doing this? You just give your chair a quarter turn and spend a few minutes with that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that it took someone else to bring it out of me.
Yeah.
I work with David Schmeichel and Aaron Russell on this one. And I had all the ideas, right? And I'm sure a lot of people do. I kind of want to do this. I sort of think about this, and this is something that I've thought about. But then until somebody helps, and I found it helpful. I've talked to you about versions of this many times. But then when I actually sat down and put in the time to actually realize what it looks like, this is what it ended up being.
Yeah.
And some people have, I have another vision board that's all magazine cutouts and things like that too, which it doesn't have to be this. This is a little over the top, and I love it. And I'm happy to, to give contact information for how to get this done. But the thing is that sometimes you need someone else to help you get there. Yeah. And so that's what I'm looking forward to in your book is having that push me to get there. And then knowing that I can send you an email and saying, hey, I don't get this, or I'm stuck on this. That's a huge gift that you won't get it from a lot. Like if you just buy a book on Amazon and that's pretty much it. You get your appendix A, B, and C and good luck, right? Yep. And then if you want more, then it's like join the Facebook group or join this group or that group, or pay the $10,000 for 20-minute coaching or whatever.
It's kind of like if you lose your contact or your login details for Facebook and you try and contact them to get it, to talk to someone to get that sorted out.
Yeah, I know that's been a hard
Sorry,
decision.
sucks to be you.
Yes, I know you've struggled with that personally.
Couple times. Not that my demographic would have anything at all to do with that.
No, not at all.
No, no.
But no, that's really great. So where can we find your book? How can people get it?
The easiest place is go to my website, so yourpathtopurpose.net, www.yourpathtopurpose.net, and you can order the book from there. If you happen to be in Calgary, I'm happy, and you can send me a note to my email, which you can just email me through my website. You can contact me through LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, so you can just send me a note and say, I'd like your book. I had somebody ask me last week, how do I get your book? And I said, would you like a copy? And they said, yes, that's why I'm asking. Well, I said, you could tell me you like it and I'll get it to you. Yeah, but where would I go to get it? And I said, well, you maybe talk to me and tell me you'd like it, and then I'll get it to you. Yeah, but no matter where would I go to find it? And I mean, I was playing with him. I know what he was asking for. I was sort of saying, well, you're talking to the author, and if you'd like a book, say yes, and I'll deliver it to you. I'll even sign it if you want. And I'll even wipe it down with, sanitary wipes. But for people that aren't living in Calgary, how would they get it? Go to my website. That's the easy way. And you can order it right online, and it'll arrive in your inbox in a couple of weeks.
And you do workshops as well with groups that can walk through, like if I was a team or if I had a team of people on my staff or whatever, and we wanted to work through the book, or even just a family or, just friends doing it kind of like a book club kind of idea. You offer that as well, where we can go through it and then we talk about it with you, right?
Yeah, so the purpose pods are really like that. And I like the analogy to a book club, because that's not unlike what it is. It's a little, yeah, I mean, we want everyone to have read the book for sure, not necessarily answered all the questions. So I'm actually a proponent of, before you try and answer questions, unless you really feel compelled to do that, by all means do it. But not a bad place to start is just read the book through and then go back and read it now looking at the questions. But now as a cohort, we get to work together, talk to each other, bounce ideas off each other, learn from each other, share frustrations and successes with each other. The other thing that I'm doing, so recently just finished up an assignment with a company, and their most pressing question is, well, what's our why? Now, it didn't show up that way. It showed up as 4 different leaders: CEO, president, CFO, VP BD, and director of HR, 5 of them. And they just weren't on the same page. Everybody was rowing really hard, just in a different direction. Everyone had a different perspective about what next needed to look like. Everyone understood it had to change from what it was. Where it was is not when it was no longer sustainable, but nobody could agree on what the path forward was. And so I interviewed each one of them and figuring out, well, what would really happen? What would really help move this forward? And it sounded like, well, the major theme was, well, we need to get on the same page. I said, all right. So I asked each one of them, well, what's your why? And they would lean in and say, excuse me?
Nobody likes that question.
Oh, like what does that even mean?
Nobody likes that question, I find.
What's your purpose? Well, why is this company exist? So we spent a half a day together working through the component parts to arrive at a statement, a purpose statement, that the entire company, the leadership of the company, could feel down in the pit of their stomach that this is it, that they could feel an emotional connection to the words that they'd composed that reflected the reason this company exists and what it's endeavoring to do. Well, that was pretty exciting. And they recently rolled it out to their whole company globally, because it's a global company, contractors included. And it's really interesting to hear the feedback they're starting to get from people. Because when you proclaim that purpose statement, you can't show up the same way anymore.
That's true.
It changes you in a fundamental way. It's like, now that I know it and I've actually said it out loud, it's like your whole ecosystem starts moving in that direction, just like it would with you taking folks through this goal setting process. And you've verbalized the goals. Other people have heard them, and so have you, and you've written them down, and you've built a plan to achieve them. Your world's going to be forever changed. It will never be the same, and it will be better.
And just even coming out and saying it and having somebody else hear it, it
Yeah.
it automatically creates that accountability where, well, now I have to do this because
Mhm.
I've said I'm going to, and if
Yeah.
not, then your integrity is questioned. And then
Yeah.
for example, the company you were talking about, if they come out and proclaim to everyone, all their stakeholders, this is who we are, and then they don't act in that way, then trust is lost and integrity is questioned, and then it
Yeah.
kind of just falls apart, right? So that's really important. I really like that.
Mhm.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Yeah, well, great.
Cool.
Okay,
Cool
Richard, I
people.
am going to put all of the posts, all of the links and everything for your book. And
Thank you.
I want to join a purpose pod. What if I was to get a bunch of people together and we did a purpose pod? Would you do that with us?
Done.
Okay, I will put together a Fierce Mom purpose pod and we will figure it out.
Cool.
I think that sounds really cool because that'll actually kick me into gear of actually getting to and through the book. And I know that it's important because even though I feel like I figured it all out and this maybe looks like I did, there's a lot of gaps in between that I still need to figure out. So we'll never have it all figured out, but any help along the way is really appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll put it all up, and thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Richard.